I'm Bradley Wiedmeyer. I'm a home care worker from San Francisco, and I'm running for SEIU UHW, United Healthcare Workers West Executive Committee to represent the independent providers in San Francisco home care, the consortium, and the Institute on Aging. And we're running because we need to have our union in our own hands. Right now, there's basically a fraud. I've served on the executive board for 3 years, and the officers completely have seized the control of the executive board, and it's not listening at all. They're not listening at all to the members whatsoever. We have a terrible situation in the union where we've got work sites where the stewards are getting no support from the union. Other unions in their facilities, their contracts are signed and complete, and our people are suffering. In home care right now, we've had tremendous assaults on home care over the last few years, and the union's not interested in fighting it. In fact, they blocked in the city when we did activities. They would set up alternative activities to draw away people when we were speaking with the Board of Supervisors during the budget period, because they had made a deal and they did not want the deal rocked with the politicians they're supporting. So these are some of the reasons why we're running. But especially because this election is a stealth election, it's set up so that in home care, there's over 30% of the seats are empty. There's not even anybody running. And 95% of all the races are uncontested. So it's a very questionable election, and we're trying to get the word out that there is election and there's a reason for taking the time, just a few minutes, to turn your ballot in, mail it in, because it's a chance to take the union into our own hands.
And what are the conditions of home care workers that you feel have to be changed?
Oh my God! I was just looking at San Francisco, for instance, has requirements for paid sick leave, but home care independent providers have no ability to even take a day off if they're sick. If they're not there, their clients often get no care, and you have to reschedule, let alone being paid for it. So, it's a disaster. And the city has laws for private sector, but for the home care, the county, state, federal home care workers get no sick time off, get no time off, basically. There's not even a provision for replacing them. It's madness. The state has cut across the board 8% on home care, so basically it's like a speed up or a wage cut where we have the same work and we are expected to continue with the wage cut. And that in San Francisco averages about 94 cents an hour cut. So that cut was promised to be removed when the economy turned around and when the budget changed so that there was a surplus. And now, of course, we've got to have the rainy day fund or some other God knows what.
So millions of dollars are being spent on these ballot initiatives. Do the members support them, and where is this money going?
Yes, well, the ballot initiatives are about $2 million apiece. 20 years ago, our union fought for single payer, and the members put that on the ballot. We were a little premature because the HMOs were still popular. But what's going on right now is that Regan is just putting out $2 million for ballot petitions. They are being circulated. 2 of them are basically a threat to the... They're not even meant to be carried on through to the ballot in November. They're to be used as bargaining chips. And Reagan did this 2 years ago, and we got absolutely nothing from them. So that was like, in that case, it was $5 million down the tubes with no benefit. And now the guy doesn't have any other tricks, and he's repeating it. And this e-board that I was saying, it takes no position that the members want, just rubber stamped it.
So he's spending billions of dollars on a ballot initiative, but informing the members about an election, there's no information really to get the members involved in even the election.
Well, what happens is the election was announced, so they received that there was an election going on like a week into the petition gathering period. And then just a few days before the petition period closed, people were encouraged to run. So it was completely just for consumption. So that's the issues that we're facing in the stealth election, and it's tragic because supposedly we have the biggest executive board in the country, 350 members, but Reagan against the bylaws and Constitution says that you're not a governance board. When the Constitution, the bylaws say that E-Board is the highest decision-making body of the union, Regan isn't even consulting the E-Board anymore. I mean, he used to go through some kind of motion, but we haven't even actually really voted on any of the initiatives that he's taken recently. It's just acquiescence. Anybody have an issue against it? And that's the way he's governing now. San Francisco is one of the higher paid counties, and we have members who, up in the gold country, who are making minimum wage, the state minimum wage. It's $8.25. We're making $11.75. Well, like Howard's, home care. I've had clients in and out of the hospital. It was under $16,000. We have, out of 300 staff members, we have 20%, 60 making over $100,000 a year. Almost 200,000. Dave Regan, the president, and his closest advisors make more than anybody else. The next constitutional officer is the vice president, and he doesn't make as much as Dave Regan's advisors. So, it shows right there that even the rest of the officers are pretty much window dressing. Dave Regan's two closest, highest advisors came from another union, a union whose president is facing several hundred years in jail for robbing, stealing money from home care workers. And these guys did nothing to expose it, to correct it, to address that. It all happened on their watch, and they've never come clean on what the whole story is. It's still in the courts, the sentencing. I think there's an appeal, but Tyrone Freeman is expected to be put away for a good time. They have the politics that he has, which is the interest that they have is support the conservative business establishment and align with them politically in the state. That's their strategy, that the legislature is a command situation and that we need to support the main body of the Democratic Party in the legislature. There's an organization that perfectly reflects this and their politics. It's called the Alliance for Jobs and Sustainable Growth. It's supposedly a labor organization, but it's run basically by the Chamber of Commerce and their Committee on Jobs, and it draws in the most conservative unions. Members of this organization include the Golden Gate Restaurants Association, and which is restaurants, who attacked the San Francisco health plan, which our home care members rely on for our health care. They fought that health plan all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to stop what we wouldn't have been able to have a health plan if they had won. Also, BOMA, yes, the Building Owner Management Association is also a strong voice on that, and they are doing everything they can to weaken and eliminate rent control, which is the basis for not only our home care members, but most of our members in San Francisco being able to reside in the city and in the other counties in the Bay Area that have rent control. They've set up a sort of rump political committee that they finally maybe have like one person that has acquiesced to it, and that's how they work in all their committees. They basically set up one person to rubber stamp. But there is no COPE, there is no Committee on Public Education, which should be our political committee that should be democratically run by the members. That doesn't exist. We've had no say. And we've been asking for 3 years, the entire length of my term on the previous executive board, we've been asking to have a review of this a relationship with the Alliance for Jobs and Sustainable Growth, because they're not friends of our members. Their office space has been delayed slightly. They were going to move them in earlier in the year, but in San Francisco there was no contest in the election, so they delayed it. But they're still coming. After this election, they'll be in our Union Hall, rent-free, as our contribution to them. So it's like a serious chunk of change that we're contributing to them, and they actually are secretly still in our office. They have supplies stored there, and they were in the office in 2012 for the campaign during that election year.
Dave Regan took the union out of the Labor Council in San Francisco, and now they're trying to get back in. What's happening with that, and how did that happen? Were the members consulted about leaving the Labor Councils?
No, that was completely not reviewed by the membership, but it also relates to the larger question of SEIU breaking with the AFL-CIO and coming and setting up a rump federation. So it's related to that. And the problem, I mean, I don't listen to what Obama has to say, President Obama, too often, but even Obama says you need to like go back into the AFL-CIO. But let me just say that in San Francisco, for the Labor Council there, we decided to walk out and take the dues. We have a lot of members in San Francisco, so it was a damaging development for the Labor Council. Some of the other Labor Councils around the Bay, the North Bay Council, we did stay in. But in San Francisco, because the Labor Council, I think because it takes more stronger stands on issues that are important to the working people, working class, Dave Regan wanted to have nothing to do with it. So now, yes. So right now there's apparently an opportunity for the union to go back in, but they haven't answered my questions. I've been asking the political director of San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara County doesn't even know anything about it.
Who is this?
Carlos. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name. It's not Castron. Carlos. But he replaced Leon Chow, and he has a larger position because he has all three of those counties down the peninsula to San Jose, and he is not aware of what's happening with Labor Council in San Francisco. So I mean, it's all decided at the top, and they consult no one and they answer no questions. I pestered them for quite a while about the Alliance moving into the building, and they finally did admit after a month of effort that, oh yes, they're coming, and wouldn't it be great if an organization like that backed up our home care members on like our health care. It's like, well, that's not going to happen with the members in that group. There are whole counties with no one running from home care, and our largest counties having no candidates, or less than half of the candidates even running, is because the members see that the executive board is a fraud. I am for a large executive board if it was for real, and self-organization is really important of the membership, but that's blocked at every angle for home care. The union bylaws and constitution say that there should be a home care council, and Reagan's blocked that, says that our home care leaders are not stewards, are not leaders, basically. And so...
He's a leader. He's a leader.
Yes, yes, oh yes. He's a leader, and he's paid well to be a leader. His salary is $199,000.
Plus expenses.
Yeah, plus all the expenses, yeah, and compensation for travel and whatnot and stuff. So, you know, I mean, it's probably close to $300,000.
Has he ever been a home care worker?
No. Dave Regan is a business school graduate of labor studies from Cornell. He was hired directly into the international office, and he's never been a worker. He's never been in healthcare. And, you know, he moved up the chain of being a professional SEIU officer.
And who was he appointed by?
He was hired by Woodward, who's one of the top executive vice presidents. And so when there was there's a whole lot of issues with the trusteeship, but basically he was imposed out to San Francisco to deal with trusteeship.
Who imposed him?
He was imposed by the international executive body. At that time, it was Andy Stern. Andy Stern is a emeritus professor of the business school at Columbia in labor studies, of course. And he's also on the board of a privatized anecdote company when the federal government privatized the Defense Department's biodefense program of manufacturing of antidotes to terror. He was put on the board of that company, and he makes, you know, probably 6-7 figures, probably. Our election is taking place. The vote count will take place on the 21st of March. Members need to get those ballots so that they have arrived on the 20th. So, like the 18th, get it in the mail. It's paid, prepaid. It's worth using. Use this ballot. Vote for somebody other than Dave Regan and his whole crew. Vote for the United Membership Slate, because we're members that are workers that are fighting for you and for having a say and control of our organization, and we'll benefit from that. Thank you.
I'm a candidate for the 2014 presidential election for SEIU UHW.
What are you running for?
I said I'm a presidential candidate. I work at Kaiser Permanente. I'm part of the Kaiser division inside the union. I also serve on the statewide board as the Kaiser Division Finance Officer currently. And I've been in the role since we fought for that to be a reality. So in essence, there's an advisor's position inside the executive board. People aren't really aware that we implemented a new type of structure post-trusteeship. And for all looks and accountability, we have wings outside of the voting body that are called advisors. We have on the right side, if you will, the ethics officers, one for each division. And on the other side, we have finance officers to oversight and use as a controls, make sure that we don't misuse funds. What the member needs, essentially, what we hear resoundingly, is our mission statement, which is to bring accountability to membership, to bring a democratic processes that are transparent, and that we can say to each other, look, this is the mechanism in which we can have faith in. What we need right now is being dictated by Dave Regan and company, which is another shadow organization, if you will, inside our local, by his top advisors that don't even come up as public officials in salaries that we can even point to. So,
who are these people?
Well, for instance, I heard you speaking with Bradley about Steve Trossman and so on and so forth. And
who is he?
Bradley stated who Steve Trossman is, and I would hope that people that are interested in this video understand that he and other people that we are maybe not even aware of are operating behind the scenes and on behalf of United Healthcare Workers, and that's 150,000 souls. That's very important. I think that you should at least tip a hat to and give some sort of accountability when asked. Deep inside the union, there are people that are on the executive board level, people like Bradley, people that are in Kaiser Division, in the hospital division, home care, nursing homes. They've been asking just for information, points of information that are completely being denied at best, and at worst, people have been persecuted for asking. UHW has so many tools available to it. One of the biggest unifying factors of UHW, labor councils, Rotary clubs, you name it, Cub Scouts, they are all microcosms of the democratic process. If people are disenfranchised, even in something that they have freedom to go and elect themselves to, a labor council, a Rotary club, you name it, church group, if you're disenfranchised, we all lose. It's incumbent upon ourselves to understand the value of being a participatory civilian.
So you're in favor. So you're in favor of election to labor councils and rank and file having the right to be elected to all these positions.
Look, all those have been in place for a good reason. They didn't come out for because they're just happy, good, fuzzy, warm ideas. Those came out of those councils, and being people elected to those councils that represent labor. Those things are there for safeguards of the everyday person. The issue is, are we responsible for the success and or failure of that? I don't think so. So in terms of a blood drive, we should lend out our resources to help with blood drives. I think that's a great thing. It helps everybody. Are we supposed to feel responsible when blood is short and say United Healthcare Workers should be held accountable for the lack of blood inside the blood banks? That's in a kernel of a message that we see in our different organizations or divisions within Kaiser, hospital, home care, nursing homes in Kaiser.